It's our final game in Corpus Christi, and we're joined by the manager of the RoughRiders, Steve Buechele. We didn't get to him last week, but Steve, you were on vacation a week ago, had the series off. Last time we were here in Corpus Christi, did you come back feeling a little bit refreshed? It's nice that the Rangers are able to do that for their coaches.
Yeah, it's definitely nice that our organization does that. I think at times during the year, when the vacation days do come up, they're well needed. And yeah, I came back somewhat refreshed. 4 days seems like a long time, but it goes by really quick. But it's certainly nice to get a little break.
It's been an unusual week with all the games postponed. First game of this series, the field was not playable. You were right in the middle of talking things over with the folks here in Corpus Christi. Just give us an idea as to what all went down and what the issues were for the fans that maybe don't understand, hey, it wasn't raining, why couldn't you play?
Yeah, I think the fact is they got so much rain and they had the field covered. I think maybe one night they left it off, but it didn't do any damage to the field. But once they did cover it and they got 13, 14 hours of straight rain, the whole field was a lake. And when it gets like that, the water can seep underneath that tarp, and the infield was soaked. And when we came out for an early workout and took a look at the field, I mean, I knew that there was probably a pretty good chance we weren't going to play the game. That they were, as a matter of fact, I thought they probably had their work cut out to get it in good shape for the next day. So, and I think it was more of an issue of safety than anything else. I think maybe from upstairs or from the stands, parts of the field looked like it was okay. But in reality, it was way too soft, and you just can't risk the injury to the players.
With the rainout, or I guess the postponement on Thursday and the rainouts that we had back in Frisco, those aren't always the worst thing to have, especially in a period where you play 26 straight days without a scheduled off day, right?
Yeah, and I think, especially at home, the rainout that we had in Frisco, I think no one was happier than Jeff Andrews, where we were able to get our bullpen a couple days off, and then Kevin Pusadis threw the next day threw a complete game without having to use the bullpen, and the second game of that doubleheader was rained out. So pitching-wise, I think we've come out of it pretty lucky and well equipped to handle the stretch that's ahead of us.
On Friday, it was a strange day with Ramirez getting the start in the first game of the doubleheader, his name popping up in every trade rumor, the Cubs' Matt Garza being included there as well. He went out for the first time in a couple of weeks, struggled a little bit, seemed like he was a little bit physically and maybe mentally torn out there on the mound. You obviously didn't hear anything and sent him back out there, but in situations like that, is there anything you can say to a guy to try and help him recover mentally from what is a trying day?
Yeah, and for sure it was a trying day for Neil, just reading his name and hear it from his teammates. The best advice you can give a player is, hey, there's nothing you can do about it. You have no control of the situation, so go about your job. Now, that's easier said than done when it's a career that you're talking about. So I know that the trade talk and everything that was going on that day probably weighed a little bit on Neil's mind, but this time of year, it happens all the time. Inadvertently or evidently, there's always going to be someone on your team here in AA or AAA whose names are mentioned, and when it does, it's big for these kids because it's their future, it's their career. So I understand the anxiety that goes along with it.
You were moved as a big league player. Did you ever have your name come up as you were a minor leaguer, as far as you knew? As
a minor leaguer, not as far as I knew, but I certainly, the year I was traded, other people knew more than I did and was aware of what was going on more than I did at the time. So, it's a weird situation. And nowadays with the media and the internet and everything, the tweeting and everything that goes on, information gets out really quick.
Here with RoughRiders manager Steve Buechele. One player who's had a tremendous week offensively is Alex Buchholz. He had the big game-tying home run in the first game of Wednesday's doubleheader, then won it with the walk-off. First time this team has hit a walk-off home run this year. Alex, have you seen anything different from the way he has approached things over the last couple of weeks? Because this is the best that I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, the best I have too, especially at the plate. Maybe a little more focus. I think just kind of that game face that he can give you. He's a very intense player, and he's been streaky in the couple of years that I've had him, but this has certainly been a great streak, and with a month and a half left in the season or less than that, you kind of hope that he can ride this one out until the end.
Also gives a little bit of support to Nicholas, who's been seemingly carrying the load all season, and with possibly Joe Benson getting back. You're talking about a middle third of the order that, for the first time all season, is a little bit intimidating for a pitching staff.
Yeah, and you got to give those guys credit, especially Brett. He's stayed consistent the whole year. He's never really gone into a prolonged slump. He's taken on that burden of being our run producer, and he's done an absolutely outstanding job. I think sometimes a young player like that can take that pressure and let it get to him. I think he's just gone out every day, put his work in, stayed focused on what he has to do, and he's obviously been the glue to our lineup for the whole year.
We were talking a little bit earlier this season about Teo Martinez really being one of the surprises of the system. Now that Martinez has cooled off a little bit, Nicholas has really stayed, as you said, very consistent. You'd have to say that he has got to be, overall, from start to where we are at this point in the season, the biggest surprise offensively of any of the minor leaguers, maybe.
Yeah, maybe the best in the league. I think you can look at Aliotti from Midland, how he kept the 350 average or 360 average for the whole time. Very impressive. I would say overall, with what's been dumped on his shoulders, I think Brett certainly has proven that he's in consideration for Player of the Year, in my mind, for the Texas League.
Just a stat, maybe for you to do some politicking with your managers who also vote on that. Brett had 17 career home runs before this season. He has 18 here this season. Lastly, I want to get you out on this. Kevin Posadas, you mentioned him earlier, through that complete game, first Riders complete game shutout of the season. He has pitched well without going to the knuckleball the last couple of times out there. It seems like he's made some adjustments with Jeff Andrews that have taken his standard 4-pitch mix, and he's been able to have success here.
Yeah, I pitched a great game against San Antonio, and I think the thing with Kevin, and they have made adjustments, like you said, they being Kevin and Jeff in the bullpen, that I think have paid off for him. He's kind of put that knuckleball right now on the back burner and just gone out there and competed. If he's able to keep it down and locate, which is the key to any pitcher, and when he's able to do that, his stuff is good enough to get guys out and to get easy outs. And he works quick, and when he's got his stuff going, he seems to cruise. It's when he makes those mistakes, and at Double-A, when you make mistakes, you're going to get hurt. So we look for a good game out of him tonight.
Boo, as always, thanks for the time. Best of luck out there today.
All right, thanks, Alex.
That's Steve Buechele. We're back after this here on the Frisco RoughRiders Baseball Network.